In today's Consumer Alert, the Biden administration is proposing new rules to make airlines more transparent about those added fees. And this comes as the Department of Transportation is also looking into proposed stricter rules for airline refunds after a summer filled of flight delays and cancellations. Stephanie Goski has what you need to know this holiday travel season.
The scramble to get those holiday plane tickets is on, followed by the ticket shock. Compared to last year, average domestic fares are up 43% for Thanksgiving and up 39% for Christmas. Those high prices include extras like checking a bag and change fees. The federal government proposing new rules to ensure airlines and travel sites are transparent about extra costs up front as soon as a price is listed. Customers would no longer have to search for fees tied to things like checking bags, canceling or changing flights, and guaranteeing seats with family. The White House says the new rules would force airlines to be more competitive, driving down prices.
Are these new rule changes necessary?
No, they are not necessary. All the information that this proposed rule is about is currently available on our websites.
Nick Callio is the president of Airlines for America, a trade association.
And we don't need really the government to tell us to do it. Our carriers are so fiercely competitive, it's unbelievable.
The transportation secretary responding.
I think right now we still have too many situations where passengers, you think you're getting a low fare, you think you're getting a great deal, but it wasn't obvious what the fees were.
The announcement comes after a summer of discontent, tens of thousands of cancellations and delays. Staffing shortages forced airlines to cut down the number of flights, contributing to an increase in ticket prices. Air travelers are frustrated. The federal government hoping some new rules might make things better.
It's a way to say to the public, we hear your complaints and we agree with you. We want you to know everything that's involved and the true cost of flying.
And United Airlines flight attendants picketed outside of Boston Logan International Airport today to demand United Airlines addresses what they describe as ongoing operational disruptions and focus on labor relations that support people on the front lines. The strike was one of many held by airline worker unions across the nation. Flight attendants planned pickets at 14 airports across the U.S. Well, the Congressional Budget Office says that the White House's student loan relief plan is likely to cost about $400 billion. The plan would cancel up to $20,000 of debt for borrowers below a certain income level. Now, Republicans argue the plan unfairly passes the cost of college onto those who never went. The Biden administration says it provides relief to the middle class and insists the cost will be offset by other measures, including the Inflation Reduction Act. And Hurricane Ian is not expected to impact U.S. fuel prices. AAA reports that the national average for a gallon is $3.75. BP and Chevron have evacuated crews from offshore and natural gas fields in the Gulf of Mexico for safety, but Ian's path is not projected to cross that area. And analysts say that the loss of roughly 485,000 barrels a day from these evacuations will be minor for overall production.